again, it's Fern here, and I am recounting some of my favorite memories of being a dog trainer. All right, and this one is a lesson that sometimes you got to learn things the hard way, and this was definitely the case. And this is a mistake that I make sure all of my students do not make. It's very important that they hear this so that they don't, because this mistake I made came at the price of some blood. Mine, which is never a good thing. So what happened is I got a session to do a client with two dogs, a pit bull, older pit bull, and a maybe 3 or 4 year old like little terrier mix. And sometimes, you know, when I'm doing like back-to-back sessions, I'm kind of rushing from one to the other. You know, I'm doing like maybe 3, or in the beginning I was like 4 in a row. So it was you're kind of in a rush. You're always going from one place to the next. And what happens is I was in one of those situations where I was rushing to get to the next appointment. Typically what I would always do is, you know, because one of them blends into the other, and who knows how long these people book their sessions. So when they book it, I talk to them, so then I kind of understand what they're dealing with, so I'm prepared when I go in there. So when I get to my sessions, normally I will look at my notes and see what I'm walking into so that I'm prepared and I know what to do. But this time I was in such a rush and I was running a little late that I just knew it was the two dogs. I'm like, all right, no big deal. I'll just figure it out when I get there. So I didn't look at my notes, and I show up, I knock on the door, ring the doorbell, whatever. The dogs go nuts. I hear all craziness going in there. So my client opens the door, and she's like, hey, how are you, and everything. And I see the dogs are back behind a gate in the kitchen, like straight in front of the front door. Like I can look straight ahead, and there they are in the kitchen, the doorway, and they're both barking, jumping at the gate in the kitchen. So I come in, she's like, hey, how are you doing? And I say, okay, you can. So I assume, incorrectly, that it's just the gate's there because they're very jumpy and barky, and, you know, they just didn't want that. They're trying to keep them away from the guests because they would jump and bark. You know, I'm not thinking anything bad. So I say, you can just let him out. And she pauses for a second. She looks at me kind of confused, like, really? I'm like, yeah, just let him out. Now, the look on her face when I said just let him out should have told me that that was probably not a good idea. But I wasn't thinking straight. I'm like, don't worry about it. I can handle the jumping and whatever. I'm a professional. So she says, okay. She assumes that I know what I'm doing. She opens the gate. Both dogs charge me. The pit bull, very typically, just is all happy to see me, all wiggly, no big deal. But that little terrier makes a beeline for me and bites me, boom, 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 like 3 or 4 times. I think 3 times up my leg, twice on my calf, and then came up onto my thigh. Okay, and as this happens, you know, what I assume happens is I squeal like a little baby, like, dog! I can't imagine what I sound like because I was totally surprised by it. And what happens is the first time the dog bit me, I withdrew. Dog bit me again, I withdrew again. And in those couple of seconds that the dog had made contact with me a couple times, I was like kind of almost backed up against the door at this point. I didn't have many options. And it kind of occurred to me at that point that the dog is biting and then withdrawing, biting and withdrawing, which is an indication that the dog is not totally confident. Because he's not, if a true aggression, the dog would bite, he'd be hanging on to me and they would have to remove him. But he was biting and letting go. So it told me that he was probably not all that serious, so I immediately just started advancing. I just walked into his space. And as soon as I did that, he changed his tune completely, and I backed him all the way into the dining room, actually, and then he was kind of on his best behavior at that point. So then we got myself cleaned up. Luckily, it wasn't. It also wasn't. It was very superficial. You know, there were very light bites. It was not a committed bite. This guy was not really serious about it. So I cleaned myself up and then went on with the session. So I learned 2 valuable lessons that day. All right, and this is one I make sure all my students know. It's ingrained in their head, so this doesn't happen to them. Number 1, always look at your notes before you go into any session. Yeah, that's a big one. I've never made that mistake again since. Number 2, always wear jeans. All right, I was wearing shorts that day because it was summer here in New Jersey and it was like 90 degrees out. Okay, I will never wear shorts again. Now, no matter what the session I'm going in, no matter how hot it is, I'm wearing jeans. Because jeans have saved me a lot of little bites and bloodshed. It'll really protect you quite a bit. So those were my 2 lessons when working with clients and specifically grumpy dogs, definitely read your notes and wear jeans just in case. Hey, you live and learn. So there he is. That's my big revelation, my moment that I always look back and get a giggle out of that one. Hope you enjoyed it too. If you would like to turn your passion for dogs into a career and do what I do without the mistakes, hopefully, because I'll tell you my mistakes so you don't make them, I would love to work with you. The FernDog Trainer Academy is open for enrollment right now, but only for a limited time. So if you're interested in getting a great job that you love getting up for, working with dogs and people, I would love to help you get there. You can see the link somewhere around this video, and I hope to see you in the academy because I would love to help you personally get to do this great job. All right, I'll see you tomorrow for another fun memory. Have a good one.